So I had a couple of different companies and businesses before I got into agriculture and kind of growing and having the farm. My most recent career was I got into real estate for about 3 years, and we were buying and selling houses. So we were doing fix and flips and owner financing. We were able to buy and sell about 100 houses in 3 years. And before that, I ran my family's car washes. So we had car washes in North Dallas area, and I was a general manager, and learned a lot of cool things about working for the car wash that I very much enjoyed, like customer service and how to handle people when they're upset, and employees, and how to manage a lot of employees at the car wash. And so when we got into real estate after that, I really learned about sales and marketing. We started an academy to teach people how to do the kind of real estate we were doing. And at the end of the day, after about 3 years of doing it, I found that it was really just all about money for me. So it was about what's the lowest you can pay for a house and what's the most you can get. And it was all about trying to make a bunch of margin, and it wasn't so much about helping people. And so I started having some kind of conflicts with my own integrity in that. And I was really looking for what am I going to do next? So in exploring when I sold that company to my former business partner, I was really looking for, how do we create a business that is going to bring, have our family have more time together, and how to be healthier, how to make a positive environment or a positive impact on the environment. And then I really was interested in I'm kind of a long-term thinker. So I was really interested in what kind of business is going to be 20 years from now, and what are we going to have more of in the future. And that's when I stumbled across, hydroponics and aquaponics. I didn't have any kind of experience growing before that. I didn't grow up on a farm. I literally never had a house plant before we bought our farm. So it was there was a lot of a learning curve in it, but that was the kind of the previous things was I had experience doing that. And before that, before the car wash, I had a couple other little teeny companies. I was always much more of an entrepreneur than a employee.
What was your first real serious thought about getting into farming?
So the first serious thought about getting into farming came along when we found our property. So my dad actually had come over. He had seen that there was a property in between where we lived, and we had a big house in a suburb, and they had another big house in a suburb. And so it was in between our two houses. There was this random little shotgun of a property that was 2.5 acres, and it had some greenhouses in the back. My dad drove by and it saw a for sale sign. He came over. He's like, "Hey, there's a property you need to check out." And the reason he was telling me about it is I just was, I was battling my HOA. They were upset about me having vintage cars and, car trailers and stuff. And I was really tired about living in a giant house that it didn't really make sense for us and the kind of environmental impact that we wanted to have. And at the same time, I wanted to have, a little bit more room to spread out and build a greenhouse for our family. When we went to go look at this property, it turned out it actually had 17,000 square feet of greenhouses on it. It wasn't quite I was thinking like a 12 by 12 or something small for our family. And then we found the property, and it was just, it was just gorgeous, and it was perfect. It was close. It was the right school district. And then I looked at that property and I said, I think we can make this work. And, how we can afford this is we have to have a business. And then the business kind of came to it because I had been researching aquaponics and hydroponics, but it wasn't really real for me until I saw I could really get this property with existing greenhouses and we could make it work. So this is a deep water culture system. We basically built a large pond that's about 32 feet by 32 feet, and it's 18 inches deep. It's a total of 20 with a couple inches of room. And what's in the pond are these floating rafts. So this is a raft of lettuce. So underneath you can see how the roots are actually just hanging down into the water. And then you can see our heads of oak leaf lettuce up here on the top. So lots of advantages in this type of system inside of a greenhouse. One is it works like a big conveyor belt. So we harvest off the end here every single week, and we'll start seedlings down at the other end every week. So we've got every generation of growth in order to keep keep our weekly numbers up. So another advantage of this system is very easy to harvest. So essentially we just reach down, carefully pop the head of lettuce out, and then we'll wrap the roots around the bottom of it, and we'll send out a living head of lettuce. So the roots are attached. This will stay alive in someone's refrigerator for 3 to 4 weeks at least. We've got several different varieties. Mostly leafy greens are going to do well in this type of system. So we've got some Swiss chards, some romaines, some oak leaves, some kales, and mustards, arugula, that sort of thing. One of the things we do to this is we actually have air that we pump in there, like fish, they're fish tank air stones, and that's how the roots are going to get the oxygen. And that also provides a lot of the circulation for the water in here. So there's actually no pumps in here, and we use very little electricity. The only water that we're using are the water that we lose to evaporation and the water that the plants are sucking up out of there. So we're able to maintain a very low water usage. So like I said, before farming, I had, just a couple of skill sets. One of them was sales and marketing. It was really where I excelled at, running our car wash. We were able to do a lot of sales and marketing for that, and I really enjoyed that part of it, the game of figuring out where are my customers and how do I bring them value such that they come and bring me, dollars, basically. And so I did that for real estate as well. We were able to figure out, it's kind of a game for me, how to do the marketing and the postcards or the, whatever it was that was going to get us the leads, and I really enjoyed that. So that was a experience that I brought. And then when we had the car washes are essentially plumbing and trying not to break things and managing employees, and which is similar to running a hydroponic greenhouse. Is there's a lot of plumbing, and so I'm pretty good at plumbing and designing water systems, and mixing nutrients is very similar to mixing car wash chemicals. So it was all kind of almost like it was meant to happen. But those were a couple of skill sets that I brought into it, as well as probably my favorite thing to do is bring people together. I've always been good at networking and looking for what do other people need and how do I bring that to them. And so that's really probably my biggest skill with having the farm that's made a difference is finding the right people that were willing to come and spend their time interning and volunteering to help us do the building of it and really bootstrap this thing from the ground with limited budget. But we were able to bring the right people together that had the skills to teach me how to grow stuff and to teach me about pest control and all of these kind of things.
How did you learn to grow as well as you do?
So how I learned how to grow food was through trial and error. I killed a lot of plants. I killed a lot of fish when we were running our aquaponics system when it was in full grow. And I became a master gardener. So that was one of the biggest key things that made a big difference for me is I actually learned about the life cycle of plants and how they work. I probably learned that stuff in high school, but I didn't pay very much attention. And I definitely didn't go to any kind of agriculture school. If you would have told me 5 years ago I was going to be a farmer, I would have laughed my ass off. So there was a big learning curve. I never even had a house plant. Fortunately, my wife had kind of grown up and she had some gardens and stuff. So she had an idea, but she also had a full-time corporate job. So she wasn't able to be there every day, all day, but she was able to kind of give me some, good insights on the weekends. And then that, the Master Gardener program, I went around and was looking for, what other education was out there for someone who wanted to learn more about farming and growing. So I became a certified permaculture designer. I, took aquaponics classes around the country. I went to Indoor Ag Con Vegas and New York Ag Tech Week, and really just made these relationships with amazing people that were already doing it. And then I asked them a lot of questions. And so, Farmer Tyler was another guy that I was able to meet, and he had a YouTube channel and whatever. And just being able to ask some of these guys who are expert growers, hey, what does my pH need to be? So that was a really good resources. And then the other resource that I found phenomenal that I still use all the time is the Facebook groups. There's a world of billions of us, and the ones that are super interested in my little niche of, controlled environment, hydroponics and aquaponics, they're together and they're on Facebook. And so there's an opportunity to reach out to the best in the industry and ask them questions, and a lot of times they'll respond to you. So that's how I learned how to grow food. So one of the reasons we designed these deep water culture beds is to be very deep. And the reason we made them so deep, 18 inches of water, is so that way we could maintain a very large thermal battery. And in the wintertime, we're going to be able to maintain, it's going to be a lot warmer for a lot longer, and then kind of maintain it overnight. So we're using less propane heat to keep the greenhouse warm. And in the summertime, the same thing as well. A larger body of water is going to stay cooler than a very thin film of water. So in Texas, we have very, very cold nights in the wintertime and very, very hot summers in the summer. And that makes a big difference for our ability to grow year-round. second part of the question was how do we learn how to grow the business? It's trial and error, but I know a couple of core things that are like core beliefs to me, and that's do the right thing and the money will follow. So I'm not in this for the money. I'm in sustainable agriculture because it's what's right to do for the environment, for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Now, that's the commitment and the drive and the passion that's going to bring in the money, right? So you got to have you can't be in it for the money. That's just, kind of like that's a philosophy that I have. So the company was really grown by surrounding ourselves with people that were like-minded. So other people that have an abundance mindset, other farmers that wanted to do the same kind of things that we were doing. And we were able to just bring all these amazing people together to teach us how to grow. I brought in mentors to help with our finances and the papers and number works and the numbers and stuff that I don't like doing, as just bringing on people that do like doing that and also believe in the vision and the passion that we're creating such that they want to help us.
Yeah, so I think when chefs talk about other chefs, one of the things that seems to pique their interest is really originality. There's a lot of people kind of doing the same kind of things, and on Instagram they get inspired very easily, and it's almost an incestuous world. Everyone kind of knows each other, so someone who's kind of breaking the mold and not afraid to try, not afraid to try daring things, I think earns a lot of respect.
All right, so this system is called an NFT, which stands for Nutrient Film Technique. And in Nutrient Film Technique, essentially what we have here is a gutter. So these gutters are about 2.5 inches deep. And what happens is there's water through this little tube that's a constant stream of nutrient-enriched water that flows along the root mass of the plants. So we'll start the seedlings in a little plug, pop them into these little holes here, and then they'll grow out. Several advantages and disadvantages of this type of system. One disadvantage is there's a lot of failure points. So there's a lot of little spots that can develop leaks. One thing you can kind of see behind me, we let some plants get pretty big over here. We use this system a lot for cut and come again crops. We do a lot of edible flowers in NFT. A lot of things that we're going to be harvesting and accessing a lot because it's at waist height. So it actually makes it really convenient to get in there and do our harvesting. We actually are in the process of moving over to a lot shorter channels. In a greenhouse environment in Texas where it's really hot, the longer your channel, the more the water is going to heat up from the time you're putting it in one side going down to the other. Another big thing that we did with this system in particular is we actually plumbed it into our deep water culture system. So we're able to utilize the large thermal mass of that water staying cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter for our NFT system versus having a 100-gallon sump or very small sump. These systems also are extremely easy to take apart and clean. We can move them around really easy because essentially none of these channels are really hooked to anything. It was really easy to build this one. We like that, and it actually will maintain value used. So if we decided to go a different direction, we'd be able to sell the used channels.
What am I really bad at? I'm bad at doing the same thing over and over. So I love being in the greenhouse because it's a happy space. It's oxygen-rich environment. We've got 150 different types of plants growing, and plugging seeds into pods and plugging pods into into the rafts and doing that. I enjoy it, but I'm bad at it because I get distracted easily. Because my mind's going, like I'm business ideas next, and how do we get into a lunch business or whatever the next thing is, and so I then get distracted and then I forget what I'm doing in there, and then I'm like, I'm just bad at doing the same thing over and over. I'm also really bad at anything I don't like doing. I simply just procrastinate and it doesn't get done. And so I'm really bad at doing yard work. I like doing stuff in the greenhouses, but not out in the yard. And I'm bad at creating systems. So that's one of those ones where I had to reach out to other people for help to create the systems to get my greenhouse to run on its own and to come up with procedures.
So the main reason these crops are where they are right now is for ease of harvest. So there's some different plants that are a little bit we're going to get to and do cut and come again on. So we've got our watercress here. So we're going to do a lot of harvesting on this watercress time and time again. And so being that it's at waist height here is really nice. There's also crops that we're going to have in for a really long period of time. So one of those is that pink celery over here. You can see the Swiss chard behind me. So these have been in for months. And because they've been in there so long, one of the things with the raft system, being that it's a styrofoam raft, is that root mass will actually poke and break the rafts because it'll get so big it'll expand. And then there's also a few crops that don't like to have as wet of roots. So they don't always want to be hanging down in the water, and this film of water that goes over the roots has them be a lot more successfully grown. And that would be more like the kohlrabies and the different chives, onion chives and garlic chives. So one of the biggest things that we do in our NFTs that is more on the other side of the greenhouse, but we do edible flowers. So right now we have around 25 different types of edible flowers that we sell. And edible flowers are something that they only last for a couple of days in the system. So we're going to harvest those quite a bit, and we'll want to be able to have access to them versus bending over in those deep water culture ponds. You'll also notice in the deep water culture, it's very difficult to get to the middle of the pond. That's one of our most common asked questions. And so we try not to get to the middle. We try to just push everything to the edges. And in an NFT system like this, we're able to get to almost the whole part of everything. So we're able to harvest quite frequently on it.
What am I better at than most? I would say I think I'm better at building relationships with people, such that I'm not out there trying to get at what's in it for me. I'm always looking for what's in it for everybody else. And I think that naturally has people want to look for, how do they help me? And so the figuring out what other people want is what I think I'm better at most at, is asking the questions to get down to what do they really, really want, and then give them coaching or help or connections or relationships or whatever it is that they need to get to the next level.
All right, so this is our seed starting area. So we're going to start all of our seedlings in mostly in rock wool, some in soil, but we start them in these trays. These are set up as flood and grain tables. So there's a sump on the bottom. We're adding very little nutrients to our new seedlings, and they're going to be in this system from anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks before we transplant them out into a bigger system, one of our towers, our NFTs, or our deep water culture. So we grow right now around 150 different varieties of edible flowers, leafy greens, culinary herbs, and almost everything is going to get started in this system before it gets transplanted out to other systems.
Ooh. The worst time that I messed up is, it's something that, here's the worst time that I messed up: leaving the water running. I get so distracted easily that I leave the water running. And so we had aquaponics systems for a long time. We still have a small aquaponics system. And I'd go to top it off a little bit with the hose, and then I'd leave the water running. I'd walk away. And not only did it flood out and would run overnight, and the water, full blast hose going all night, costing water bill, flooding out the yard, but the chlorine in the water would kill all the fish. And so I actually managed to kill hundreds and hundreds. I'm not even tell you how many fish that I've killed over the years by leaving the water running, and how much I flooded out my property or cost my water bill, or overflowed a hydroponic tank and then washed all the nutrients out that cost hundreds of dollars. Like I constantly leave the water running, so much so that I don't even turn on a hose anymore. Like, I'm really fortunate to have amazing employees, and I try not to, I know if I turn on the hose that it's unlikely I'm going to remember to turn it off. And so that's the worst mistake, is that it's more than 10 or 15 or 30 times, and I feel like I know, every time I look at it, it daunts me and I laugh at it. Oh yeah, so the silly part about the leaving the water running is that the whole idea behind hydroponics is that we use so much less water. The whole idea we created the farm was because we wanted to have a more environmentally sustainable thing. So it super double, triple hurts me. I kill my fish, I wash out my nutrients, and I'm wasting water, which is the whole point of why I became a hydroponic farmer, was to save the soil and save the water. And then I'm washing it out, so that's, it's kind of a silly worst mistake, but it's the worst because it happens so damn often.
So this system we call it shallow water culture. And in shallow water culture, we're not utilizing the deep water culture depth. We're only growing in about 4 to 6 inches of water. So in this system, it's just a tray that fills up with water, and it constantly is flowing down to the bottom. We actually call this a waterfall system because we have 3 trays that successively drop down into the next one, utilizing 1 pump for 3 different grow areas. The reason we grow on these trays is because we're able to, once again, be at waist height. So in a greenhouse environment, we're always looking at how closely and how densely can we pack the greenhouse so we can maximize our dollars per square foot. At the same time, how do we save labor costs? because labor is an expensive part of this, and not having to bend over and having easy access to your crops for consistent harvesting makes a big difference for that.
So my very first experience was I saw a meetup group, and there was an Aquaponics 101 introduction to aquaponics, and I had just stumbled across it. This is actually before we even bought our property. It was when I just started to get interested in it. And I drove over to Carrollton, which is about a 30-minute drive, and a guy had a TV in his living room, and he said, I'm going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, and his name was Jay, and to this day he goes by Aquaponics Jay. And there was me and my wife and my buddy that I brought, so it was like 3 of us in his living room learning about aquaponics on a PowerPoint presentation, and then we went outside and we saw his system. And when I saw how much passion that he had for it, and it was like, answering every question that I had, that was my first experience. And it was just that I was overwhelmed a little bit by how much he was willing to give. He was there just to like help and hang out with like-minded people. And we had so much in common, like on many different levels outside of growing, because I really hadn't even ever built anything yet. So at the end of that 1 hour, $10 introduction to aquaponics class I did in his living room, I said, like, hey, listen, I'm going to be building a greenhouse of some sort. I'll give you a call back, and maybe you can help me whenever I get it. And he's like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever, man. Like, give me a holler. It was good meeting you. And then that was my first experience. And I ended up going back there, and now we're really good friends. And he came and did, I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours worth of helping me build all of our first systems and stuff like that. But that first experience led to a lifelong friendship, which is just, it's super cool. And the second experience was the same way. I went to another aquaponics farmers meetup, and it was like, these are my people. These are cool. Everyone is interested in sustainability, and they were all just cool, crafty, do-it-yourselfers, and it was just a neat entry into the community.
So this is a vertical hydroponic system. Once again, there's advantages and disadvantages. One of the things that we love about this system is that we're able to grow crops, specifically like these different types of mint, and maintain and keep them all in their place. So as you guys probably know, mint is an extremely invasive crop. And if we were growing it at this level, we would have to have quite a little bit of outdoor area and have all the different mints separated from each other so they didn't get mixed up. And in these vertical hydroponic systems, we're able to grow orange mint, chocolate mint, lemon mint, apple mint, spearmint, double mint, all in their own contained area, but also pretty close to each other and really dense in this greenhouse environment. And essentially what's happening here is that there's these little tubes of water. It's constantly getting a drip of water, and then it maintains and goes back to a sump at the end. Once again, conserving water, because the only water we're losing is due to evaporation and the plants using it. So it's very water efficient. One of the downsides is it seems like there's always a leak. So anytime you're doing hydroponics, you're going to expect some leaks. But this one in particular, you can get the towers to move around a little bit.
What is connecting with others done for your growth?
It's everything. It's done everything for our growth. I literally couldn't have done any of this on my own. I mean, I'm not actually allowed to lift more than 50 pounds. I had an open heart surgery a couple of years ago, and I have a 50-pound max that I'm ever able to lift. There's no way I could have built our farm without other people. The first 2.5 years we had our farm was built by nothing other than volunteers, friends, family, just people that were willing to, they were all interested in the same kind of thing, and they were interested in helping us build our farm. And so the community there has been phenomenal. We were able to start going to some farm-to-table symposiums and farm-to-table dinners and the farmers market, and just really met, I'm going to call it like a tribe of our people. And by bringing everyone together and having events and eating good food and having a couple of cocktails or local beers, we were able to get an entire farm built, which is just super exciting. But most exciting about that is the deep relationships that I made. I mean, I met you, Nick, and I've met almost every other person that's currently my friend in the last 3 to 5 years of building this farm.
How are you able to navigate all the things that there are to do in running a new business and working towards the lifestyle that you want?
I'm not able to navigate it. I think that it's a pick and choose your battles kind of thing, and I'm not. I'd like to say that I was better, but that'd be a lie. I'm not. Dropped the ball on a lot of stuff in the last 18 months. I'm managing what needs to be managed, and mostly what I find is that I'm putting up fires. So I'm running and, hey, we got to get this done, and then I'll drop the ball in 3 other areas over here, and then I'll go fix those ones, but then I drop the ball in 3 other areas over here. And I think that a lot of it for me is that I don't have the expectation that I should be able to handle it all. And because I don't have that expectation, I give myself a lot of forgiveness. If I drop the ball over here, it's okay, great. What could I do next time such that that ball doesn't drop? Or what kind of systems? Every time something breaks, I try to figure out what kind of system can I put in place. And I've been super fortunate to bring on some really, really amazing people to come and work with us. And so now it's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be handling this because it's not being handled. So like paying our taxes on time and accounting, I suck at that stuff and I hate it. And at the same time, like I know there's other people who are passionate. So when I was hiring people, I was looking for who's that guy, with the finance degree that could come on and then would be willing to take on that kind of thing and be fulfilled in doing that sort of job. I'm not fulfilled in it, and therefore it just wasn't getting done. So now I'm able to kind of hand that off. And it's also been really tough on my family this year. The last 18 months we've been running nonstop. I would be afraid to track how many hours in a week I work for 2 reasons. One is I don't actually ever work. And when I say that, basically what I do is I play all day and I do exactly what I need to be doing, what I want to be doing. And at the same time, I don't always get to spend as much time with my family as I'd like. Weekends I'm working on the farm. During the week I'm working on the farm. If kids want to see me, they got to come work on the farm. Wife wants to see me, same. So it's been hard for us the last 18 months, and I know that it's going to be all worth it when we get to where when we do have more time. And I know that this is what it takes to bootstrap a business. Is I'm all in. I have to stay, putting out fires and staying as focused as I can in order to create the kind of business that I want to create. And how I know that is that's what we're doing and that's what's working.
So inside of our greenhouse, we're about 8,000 square feet. You're going to notice that we have an evaporative cooling wall right over here. It's a swamp cooler. So essentially water is going down through that in the summertime. And as water is flowing through and the fans on the other side of the greenhouse are sucking the air out, it's actually evaporating that water, which creates a cooling effect to help keep our greenhouse cool in the harsh Texas sun. You'll notice we have lots of circulation fans and different air movement fans around. Keeping the leaves dry is one of the most important parts to having a high quality crop. So we're going to try and move as much air around here as possible. We also in the summertime will utilize shade cloth. So right now we haven't put it out because it's early May. In about another 3 weeks we're going to put a 55% shade cloth across the entire top of the greenhouse. That'll also help keep our greenhouse about 10 to 15 degrees cooler. We also in the wintertime we're going to use propane air heaters and propane water heaters to keep the temperature just right so we can maximize our plant growth year-round for year-round deliveries to restaurants.
So I do goal setting a little bit differently than I think a lot of people do. I know that you guys at Bootstrap Farmer do a fully planned out monthly goal setting kind of thing. That's not necessarily the way that I do it. Basically, what I do is I create games to play. And what a game to play for me is like a goal setting. It's like, okay, what's the goal is we have an empty greenhouse right now that we're in the process of building. And so the idea here is, the goal is to get the greenhouse built out, but the game we're playing is to get the greenhouse built out. So then inside of that game, it's like, then I just break down what are all the tasks that need to be done and who's the best person for it and who wants to do what. So, we've got a couple of employees that were like, hey, we want to do the demo work so we can, rip the sides off the greenhouse and start taking apart the wiggle wire and just really tear it down. And then I've got somebody else that's like, hey, I want to come and actually do the install of the, some of the hydroponic equipment we're going to put in. And, I've got another buddy who wants to help design the way the water is going to flow because he's never done that before. And so that game that we play, or the goal, is what I use to enroll other people to come and do it with us. And that's really how I get things done, is because I get excited about playing with other people. And so if there's a game that we're all playing together, then it's like, hey, we have an opportunity just to hang out with a bunch of really awesome people and do a project that's going to make a difference in the world. And that kind of goal, I think, is what has people naturally drawn to come and want to help us achieve it.
But I brought you the case to play with, so if you want to play with them, great. You can just throw it in the mix if you're not going to use it.
The lettuce, just for me, it's not as core.
Like $2. I get that. Yeah, but if you can do the Jeff's Choice screens or whatever, I love that because that'll be really easy for us.
Yeah. And it's cool with me too.
Yeah.
And everybody knows.
Yeah.
There's no mistake.
That's awesome, man.
It's all about Jeff.
Cool. That's awesome, brother. Yep. Thank you.
Catch on.
Yep. Let's play with this.
Smiling with the greens.
What skill do I wish I could have taught myself early on? That's a great question. I honestly have a hard time answering questions like that because I so don't live in the past, and I'm really happy with exactly where I'm at right now and the skills that I have right now, that I have no regrets about any skill. So it's hard for me to even look back at what skill would I wish. I don't really have an answer for that. I wanted to, I want my life to have gone exactly how it went. So I had no idea what I needed to learn. So that the approach was really, really easy because I would just start learning what was exciting to me. Because I'm a big fan of just-in-time learning. So run this way, and then when you find a problem, you learn how to solve that problem, and then you keep on running until you find another problem, then you learn how to solve that problem. So that's been exciting for me because I like solving problems. That's the way my brain is wired. And so that's how I learned how to do it. Was I just would simply, I didn't have any idea. If you would have told me here's a roadmap to everything you're going to have to learn in the next 2 years to create a business that's going to do this, I would have been overwhelmed and I would have shut down and I would never have started. And it could be just because I didn't actually think the whole process through, oh, hey, you're starting a farm, but you never actually grew a plant before, or you don't understand plant diseases or pest control, or I had no idea about any of those things. So I waited till I had bugs, and then I learned how to deal with pest control, and then I found the people that could come and help with that, and then I, just basically ran until we got stopped. So that's how I've kind of dealt with that. I think I'm really glad that I didn't have the full picture because I would have been stuck in my tracks, not wanting to move forward. But once again, I wouldn't change anything because if anything was different, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have our amazing employees and customers. There's nothing I would change.
The hardest part is just having to constantly bug people about when they owe you money. It's not fun to be the guy who has to push, hey, this invoice is past due again, and now we're at how many months are we past due? It's just kind of a difficult conversation to have when most of the other conversations are kind of exciting about, hey, here's this amazing produce, or here's what's coming up. We're kind of talking about planning, and the not so fun part is hey, it's been 60 days. Are they going to get this $38 or whatever it is. And then most of our chefs are really diligent about paying on time. These accounting firms, especially the bigger ones, and most of them do not pay before the 30-day net 30. So it's almost always getting paid 30 days later. My favorite chefs are the ones that save their credit card in our online billing system. And so as soon as I draft the invoice, it bills their card and I get paid a couple days later. Totally worth that, whatever the percentage is, 2% or whatever they're paying the credit card company.
Into conversation. I've often thought, and I've had friends that have recommended meditation and stuff like that, and I've tried it. It's not for me. Where I really come up with ideas is I hang out with people that I respect and that are smarter than me and that I have a lot of appreciation for, and I simply just tell everybody everything all the time. I constantly tell everyone all of my plans. I have zero secrets, and people give me feedback, and then I measure the feedback on if they're constant. If I went and told everyone, hey, I got this idea, and all of my friends that I love, respect, and admire, and everybody that I look up to was like, no, that's a bad idea, I'd probably stop exploring that one. And then I throw another idea, and I throw another idea. And so that's how I get clarity on what I should be doing and where I should be spending my time and what I'm good at, is I simply just talk to everybody about everything. And I make sure that I hang out with a lot of amazing people. I don't watch TV. I don't spend any time. I don't waste any of my time that I feel like. So I really want to make sure that I've went out and all of my time is spent with people that I love, admire, and respect. So what's allowed me to set the bigger goals is just that I came to a realization. I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and one of the things he said impacted me so deeply. It really got me thinking, and it was about legacy. And I started to realize that this is, we're in the first generation right now of, we post everything on social media. My life is a very public life. Like everybody knows what we're doing on a pretty regular basis on the farm, and a little bit of personal, but mostly like on the farm and around the farm with our adventure. And I, came to realize that my children's children, my great grandchildren are going to know what I did on an almost daily basis. And when I started thinking about the ability to know what my great grandfather did on a daily basis, it just blows my mind. I have no idea what my, more than 2 generations out, I have no idea. And so when I started looking at that, it's like, why would I not want to do everything that I could do to make this big an impact on people as possible? And I'm at the same time, I want to have great grandchildren. And I, like the way we're treating our environment with the, plastic use and poisoning the oceans and like all of the negative things that are happening in our environment right now, what little piece could I choose to fight for and it's like a fight that's worth losing, a fight that is worth dying for. And so like that's what it all came together, and that's where it's like, holy shit, I can make impact on tens of thousands, if not millions of people. And it's something that I can feel good about knowing like I did the best that I could do during my life. And that's what's really, that changed my mind a few years ago, because I had felt like for a really long time that what impact could I make? I ran a car wash for 10 years. I sold some real estate. I had no thought that I would be able to make the kind of impact that we've made in the last few years with inspiring people to live a more sustainable, healthy lifestyle. It's just, it's humbling. So the more of that feedback that I get, the easier it is for us to just keep on going. And it's like, we're all in.